Hello everyone. So I get asked a lot what kind of characters you should pull for, who you should pick from the coffins, how you should set up your wish list, stuff like that. And I figured I would make a video all about that, and I'd have a little bit of fun with it by also making a tier list for you guys. And afterwards, assuming you're an entirely new player, which wouldn't be surprising considering the half anniversary starts in a couple of days here, I'll show you my ideal wish list that you should set up for your banners. Anyways, let's get started. So we've got 6 tiers here. S is the meta defining characters. Like, these are characters that are going to be used in almost every team, or you have like characters that exist solely to make this character better. A is going to be like your meta picks. Like, these are characters that are not quite as strong as the S tier characters, but you're still going to see them in pretty much every team. B is your filler units. These are going to be units that you would use if you got like your 3rd team in a clan hunt and you need to scrounge together some units, or like these are the units that'll be really good for like new players that don't have diverse rosters. C is going to be your niche picks. Like, these are going to be characters that aren't useless, but they fill a very specific purpose in something like a clan hunt or maybe like a specific boss fight, and they do that well enough to justify bringing them instead of another like meta character. D is your absolute garbage tier. These characters are more or less useless, or they're just completely power crept by other characters to the point where you would just never use this character. And last tier is I don't know, and these are characters that I haven't used in a long time, or I haven't seen used in a long time. Like, I'll just go ahead and say Valora. I don't know, I haven't used her. I'll probably have her at the end of this upcoming clan hunt. But anyways, we got our first ranking here. Let's start with Acapella. Can anyone guess where she's gonna go? That's right, S tier, meta defining. Acapella is one of the most contentious characters. It's always a question of which team do I want to use Acapella in for my clan hunts, because her ultimate is just so good. It's a cheap crescent moon that just gives you a bunch of blood soul and buffs all of your units and heals. She kind of just does everything. One of the best ultimates in the game. You can never go wrong by just leveling it up to 10 if you feel like it. So Acapella, S tier, amazing character. Agaris. This is the non-ancestral version of him. I'm gonna throw him in C tier. Agaris isn't bad. The times I would use Agaris is in a dot team. So like, you'd have Transcendent Hattie is always going to be in the dot team, and I'd say Fanny as well. If you need another damage dealer and like Darcius doesn't work for the fight, like maybe it's just an issue of positioning, or you can't use Agnes, or you don't want to use Dalcarlo. I mean, I'd say probably don't use Dalcarlo in the dot team anymore, just because she's so good in the new Duskbound Devotion team. So you could throw Agaris in there as like a supplementary DPS for your team, because he does have the dots on his special, and I think his ultimate applies a dot. So yeah, Agaris, C tier. He's not useless, but I rarely use him anymore. Agnes. Throw Agnes in A tier. She's very good. She has the uncontested best way of grouping up enemies. And not only that, but it also reduces physical defense. So she works very well in the dot team with Hattie and Fanny, even though Fanny mostly does piercing damage. But Hattie does physical damage, so this is just like a huge buff for her. Because Hattie does physical damage and she has a very short range AoE on her ult. Her and Agnes are like BFFs in that team comp. I use Agnes a lot. Great character. Now Albrecht. I have a hard time deciding whether he is A or S? I'm gonna hesitantly put him in S tier. Now, there's nothing wrong with Albrecht. He is probably the best like pure healer in the game. And he buffs everybody's damage and also reduces enemy healing, which is a pretty niche interaction. Let me just start over here. I think Albrecht is easy to put in the S tier. He is incredible at sustaining an entire team because he just has a big AoE healing that grows to basically the size of the stage if you don't reset it with your ultimate. But if you do use the ultimate, it does a nice heal and it also debuffs any enemies that are in it. So just all around a really good like tech pick for a team, and you can never really go wrong with putting him in your team. The only reason you might not is because some of the meta teams right now are synergies and you want to just put as many synergy units as you can. Thinking about it now, that's about to change for Albrecht because he's going to be in a synergy team starting on the 25th with the new synergy team with Acapella. Oh god, Acapella is going to be in a synergy team. All right, yeah, Albrecht is S tier, and he's going to be even more S tier when he's in the synergy team in a couple of days. Aline, easy S tier. The amount of value you get out of Aline just straight out of the box is crazy. Just a massive damage bonus for all of your Dust Devotion characters. She's got a pretty cheap ultimate with a decent sized stun with a nice length as well. It's like a 4-second stun, and it's like 3 blood soul to cast. It's AoE as well. And she fills a much needed niche of a tank in the Dust Devotion team. Just all around really strong character. Alexi, S tier. She's kind of in S tier just by circumstance, and I have to rate these synergy units assuming that they are being used in the optimal synergy. At least Alexi, Aline, Livian, and Letitia, because without their synergies they're kind of useless. Especially Alexi and Livian, they have to be paired together. They're barely functioning units when they're not paired together, but when they are together, they're insanely powerful. Alexi is the best AoE nuke in the entire game, and it's not even close. And just all of the buffs from the synergy make her insanely powerful. If she has one weakness, it's single target. It's kind of whatever, but you can always find a use for the devotion team. Amy, this one's hard. We're hovering over the absolute garbage and niche tier. I'm gonna go ahead and put her in absolute garbage. The only reason I would not put her in D tier is because a long time ago, when these ultimates that repositioned your entire team were necessary, she had a bit of a niche because she can do that. And also her like attack speed buff it was okay. But Silver and Blood's kind of moving away from those boss mechanics where you have to use like Starry-Eyed Iona or Amy to reposition your team to dodge something, because now we're kind of just getting to the point where if there is something like that, like a big AoE that your team's gonna have to get hit by, you're either gonna face tank it or you're gonna wipe. There's no like boss fights where you're repositioning with these ults anymore, so that's pretty much all Amy had going for her, which sits her in the absolute garbage tier. Augustine, all right, C tier. Augustine is good at one thing: screwing over badly positioned carry units in PvP. But PvP is kind of seeing a big meta shift right now, where Augustine was really good at punishing Timeless Iona in like bad positions. Now we're just seeing a lot of Wind Chaser and Duskbound Devotion. Augustine doesn't counter those teams as well as he counters Iona, because the big thing with countering Iona was that he would stun her and prevent her from getting that shield that she gets at the start of the fight. So you can still use Augustine if you happen to go up against a Timeless Iona team with a poorly positioned Iona, but probably not going to be using this character very often. I don't know, there was like one night of the hunt where Augustine worked to just get an extra blood soul instantly, which allowed you to burst the fight a lot faster, but that was a long time ago. But yeah, Augustine, very niche. He's really teetering the line between niche and absolute garbage, but he'll sit in the C tier for now. Bella, A tier. I would say the second best tank in the game. She does a decent amount of damage. She's a summoner, so she works with Silver Shadow Chronometer very well. Really, her only issue is that her ultimate is too expensive. If it was a 3 cost, I would argue that Bella is an S tier character. But most of the time, Bella's ultimate is kind of like an obstacle for you to deal with. Like, you need to cycle your ultimate so that you don't have to use Bella's ultimate because it's just so expensive. But other than that, you can use Bella in pretty much any team because, like I said, you can use her with a chronometer, so that's going to be extra blood soul generation. And she's also just very durable and does a decent amount of damage for being a tank. So yeah, Bella, A tier, very good character. Kayn. Ooh, not looking good for Kayn. Yeah, he's going in absolute garbage. Even with the Dustbound Devotion synergy, he does not offer enough to even function as a niche pick. I'll admit that I do use him when I'm doing like clan hunts because his passive, which summons a little bulb that explodes, can deal like just enough damage to warrant taking him over someone else. But it probably wouldn't make a big difference unless you're like maybe like 1% off clearing the fight, and those passives may push you over the edge there. But yeah, just Kayn doesn't have anything going for him. He's just a really bad character, outclassed by everyone. Cessia. It's kind of a shame. I'm gonna put Cessia in B tier. She's not a bad unit by any means, but she's tied to the summoning team, and the summoning team just isn't very good right now. Mostly because it's been power crept by either Timeless Iona or the synergy teams. I feel like there is going to be a summoner synergy team in the near future, or at least I hope. But yeah, Cessia is a damage dealer through and through, and she does a decent amount. But again, just heavily power crept, unfortunately. Dalcarlo, S tier. But where in S tier? Let's reorganize these a little bit. I think I'll put Dalcarlo right here, Alexi right there. Is Acapella? Yeah, she is. Okay. Dalcarlo, she was S tier even before the synergy existed for her. Her ultimate is cheap. It buffs damage for her team. It CCs, and it's AoE. And her entire kit is just really good. I love Dalcarlo. One of my favorite characters. You can use her in the dot team if you don't want to use her in Dustbound Devotion. Very flexible character and does a decent amount of damage. And she's an enchanter, surprisingly. But yeah, Dalcarlo, easy S tier. Adina. You know, my knee-jerk reaction is to just put her in the absolute garbage tier, but I haven't actually used her. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and just put her in the, I don't know. I don't even know what her skills do, but I've never used her. I'm not gonna rate her. I feel like that's only fair, but I don't feel like it would be wrong to put her in absolute garbage because there's got to be a reason that nobody uses her, right? Fanny. It's kind of tough. I don't think she's S tier. She's definitely A tier. And I feel like the circumstances for her not being in S tier is because she's not attached to a synergy currently. I'm I'm gonna put her right there. So Fanny does piercing damage, which ignores a portion of the enemy's defense, and I think it also ignores shields, but the shield ignoring portion rarely comes into play. She's a dot character, so she works very well with Transcendent Hattie. Agnes and Fanny are fighting over being Transcendent Hattie's BFF. Her ultimate's really good. It summons a lingering AoE that stacks dots and does a lot of damage, and she has a very easy to trigger passive. It's kind of just like an execute ability where anytime an enemy drops below 12% health, they get hit by her passive piercing damage. But overall, really strong character, and is really only held back by the lack of a synergy bonus. I'm sure she'll be added to one soon, but for now, A tier. There's definitely an argument to be made for putting her in S tier, but I think A tier is more than fair. Fleeting Bella, S tier, easy S tier. Is she better than Alexi? All right, we'll put Fleeting Bella right there. Fleeting Bella is basically just a steroid for basic attacking characters, while also making them nigh invincible with insane amounts of healing. Her ultimate is cheap and it lasts a long time. Just an insanely powerful character. Definitely meta defining. And thankfully for anyone that doesn't have her yet, you'll be able to get her in a few weeks here. Friedrich. You know, a lot of tanks in this game are just really not great. I wouldn't say Friedrich is niche. Like, a tank role isn't necessarily niche, but he's not meta. He's a filler. Friedrich works well with Starry-Eyed Iona. She can constantly give him shields, and when he's shielded, he takes reduced magical damage. His ultimate's kind of whatever. Gives him a shield and lets him do AoE damage, but really nothing special about Friedrich. He's just like, I need a tank, so I'll use this character. And that's really all I have to say about him. Genevieve. Ugh. This is another character where I feel like she would be really good if the circumstances were just a little bit better. So Genevieve has a passive that specifically buffs Transcendent Noah, and while I think Transcendent Noah and even Genevieve are very good characters, they're nowhere near as strong as the synergy teams and any team where you'd use like Timeless Iona. Genevieve has a decent kit. With low investment, she can CC and give a little bit of Blood Soul generation with Silver Shadow Chronometer, and even do like a respectable amount of damage. But for right now, I really just use her as like a niche pick for like CC or doing just like a little bit of extra AoE damage. Gilrain, he wants to go in the garbage tier. We'll sit him in niche. Gilrain, he's going in the apps. No. This is hard. All right, C tier. He's fine. He dodges the absolute garbage tier. Gilrain is a okay damage dealer for like a new account. He can also work with Bleeding Bella if you just like happen to not have someone like Van Helsing or Seraphina or Timeless Iona. He's like a distant fourth choice if you like want to use Fleeting Bella with someone. He attacks really fast, which is like his niche right there. So you can use him to trigger like on hit effects if there's like a Night of the Hunt where it's like, oh, every X attacks you trigger something. So he's fine for that. But just like on his own, Gilrain he doesn't offer much. He just auto attacks and he does it worse than every other like basic attack character. Hattie, sorry Hattie, you're absolute garbage, which kind of hurts because I did use Hattie a lot when my account was new, but she just doesn't offer anything. You could use her to like stun a priority target at the start of a fight, but then you could just use like Augustine instead and he would do it better. Hattie just doesn't really do any damage. She's meant to be kind of like a scrapper, like offensive tank kind of character, but she doesn't really live and she doesn't really do a lot of damage. So she's just kind of in this weird state where she doesn't offer anything for a team comp. So yeah, absolute garbage tier. You might get some use out of her on a new account, but you might get use out of pretty much anything on a new account. So I don't feel like that really matters. Van Helsing. Man, I used to be a massive Van Helsing simp, and I even made a video all about Van Helsing and why he's just a great character and can carry you through the campaign. Well, unfortunately, he's just been power crept so much. He's B tier. He's at the top of B tier, so there's that. Van Helsing really has one problem, and it's a massive problem. His ultimate is far too expensive. It is a 6 cost ultimate. If it was 4, he would be low A tier, but really, even if the ultimate was a 4 cost, he just doesn't do as much damage as our other characters like Timeless Iona or Seraphina specifically are his competition. And even without the damage from Seraphina, she offers utility with the passive attack speed buffs that she provides. So yeah, like in the first couple of months of the game, Van Helsing was really good, but now it's rare for me to find a use for him. He's really good in Time Worn Mausoleum, like easily the best character in Time Worn Mausoleum, but that doesn't matter. That activity is so easy that you could use anyone. Joan, I don't know. I don't see this character being used, so I could probably safely put him in D tier, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and just say, I don't know. Incendiary Agaris. C tier. I'll put him at like the top of C tier. I haven't actually used him, but there are some niche strategies with him in like clan hunts and Night of the Hunt to just nuke bosses really fast. He used to be kind of like a pocket pick in PvP because his resurrection could stall for time. But yeah, my heart goes out to you if you happen to pull this as one of your ancestors, because you're not going to get a whole lot of use out of him, unfortunately. So he can comfortably sit in the C tier. Julius, absolute garbage. Really, his kit is okay, but he thrives on really long fights, and you need lots of attack speed for him. And there's really no team where you'd be like, oh yeah, I want to buff up Julius. He just requires too much of an investment to be good, and even then, he's gonna be outclassed by characters like Timeless Iona, probably even Van Helsing, honestly, and Seraphina. But like I said, he does have a decent kit. It just requires a lot of investment, and not just like in his skills. You need like attack speed on every piece of gear for him to be really good. Lamia, man, this hurts, but yeah, she's definitely a filler character. Again, just a victim of power creep. She's mostly just like a flex pick in the Dustbound Devotion team now, because you're pretty much always just going to be using Alexi, Livian, and Dalcarlo as like Alexi, Livian, and Aline as like your 3 core members. And as far as like alts go, it's pretty much just like Livian, Alexi, and then I use Dalcarlo. And you got like a solid 3 alt rotation that does lots of damage in CCs. And Lamia is just going to be there as like an auto attacker. She's not going to do much. For new accounts, Lamia is very good. She carried me through most of the campaign until I got Timeless Iona. But yeah, for now, she's in a pretty sorry state, and I don't see it improving, unfortunately. Letitia, where do you go? Easily S tier. Are you better than Alexi? I'd say so. Letitia is the Oathsworn of the Wind Chaser synergy, and her kit is so loaded. She has dodge, which inherently makes her really tanky. She has a really cheap ultimate that does a ton of damage, and her basic attacks do a lot of damage. Just a really strong character. So yeah, S tier. Lamine. I hate this character. I really do. I hate this character so much. D tier. Worse than Kayn. Why worse than Kayn? If you're using her with Dust Devotion, she actively hinders your ultimate rotation, because if you use her ultimate, it doesn't cycle. It stays in your hand indefinitely, and I hate that. And you would never want to use her ultimate over Alexi's or Dalcarlo. It just doesn't do as much damage as Alexi, and it doesn't provide any utility like Dalcarlo's does. So Lamine, D tier, bottom of the barrel. I hate this character. I have 4 copies of her. I'm sick of pulling her. Anyways, yeah, Livian, S tier. Ooh. I'll put her above Fleeting Bella. The ability to trigger a 15-second Blood Moon with a single ultimate while also dealing a ton of damage and overhealing your allies. It best ultimate in the game. She might even be better than Acapella, but we'll leave Acapella right there. She's fine. Acapella is the OG overpowered ultimate. But yeah, Livian and Alexi are insane. Like, obviously their power is tied together. Like, on their own, they're useless, but you just never use them like that. Livian, S tier, probably one of the best characters in the game right now. What is this character's name? It's been such a long time. Lorelei. Yeah. So it's really a question of niche or filler. She's going in the niche tier. When we didn't have as much offensive power in the early days of this game, Lorelei got a lot of use because her ability to sleep lots of targets and then extend that by ulting was invaluable, really. And it still might be, but she's a limited unit, which means the only people that have her have really old accounts and probably have very diverse rosters with very strong characters. So we're not going to be using Lorelei very much. I just don't need to. She has some use in PvP, but I haven't seen her that much. It's really just Timeless Iona teams, Dustbound Devotion teams, and Wind Chaser teams. But if there are fights where you need to CC a lot of enemies to survive or just ignore them, then Lorelei works pretty well. She also does a decent amount of damage, and she is a Crescent Moon ultimate, which there aren't a whole lot of. Mass, I don't know. I haven't used her. I just don't have the resources to invest into some of these characters. Like, I've had Mass for a long time, and I've seen some teams use her in like clan hunts and Night of the Hunt, but I personally haven't used her at all, so I don't know. Nicole, there was an argument to be made to putting her in the C tier because her ultimate starts off as a 2-cost Crescent Moon, which can be used to like trigger Blood Moon really fast in a fight that you can end in like 1 Blood Moon. But I don't feel like that's relevant anymore. I don't know. I'll put her in C tier, like bottom of C tier, because it's really all she has going for her. I feel like she should be rebalanced a little bit, maybe to like after the first cast of her ult, it's capped at 3 Blood Soul per cast rather than just like going up to, I don't know how high it goes. I think it's like 6. Either way, that's just far too expensive for what it does. Atavia, again, very niche character. Really, you'll only use her in fights where you can abuse the fact that she does damage when she takes damage. We're gonna put her at the bottom of C tier. Pavana, man, I don't know. I can't give an accurate review of Pavana. On paper, her kit sounds just as good as Lorelai's, but every time I used her, it left a lot to be desired. Piera, not only is she tied to the summoner team, but I think she's also bugged. But even if she wasn't bugged, she just doesn't do anything. Yeah, Piera's going in absolute garbage tier. Because I feel like even if the summoner team was strong, you wouldn't use her. And you've got better choices nowadays. Quinn. Easily the best tank in the game. Not only is she good as a tank, but she has like an ultimate that makes sense for a tank. She just makes your whole team take way less damage. It's so good. She is a staple in PvP and PvE. Where would I put you? I will put her in front of Fleeting Bella. Right behind Livian. Ressa. She is going in C tier. Right there. It's a shame that Ressa doesn't do more damage. Because if she dealt more damage, she could be B tier. But in her current state, and mind you, this may change in a couple of days when we get this like new spirit siphon system that I don't like, by the way, where dupes are going to make characters even more powerful than they are now. Ressa may end up doing lots more damage, but for now, all Ressa does is function as like a third member of the Wind Chaser synergy to get that extra bonus, and she lets you cycle an ultimate because she can get her ultimate cost down to like a 0 or a 1, and you just use it to draw a new card. But yeah, that's her niche, and that's pretty much all she's good for. Starry-eyed Iona. We are gonna put her B tier, right in front of Lamia, right behind Van Helsing. So as I mentioned with Amy earlier, there were some boss fights that really required you to have an ultimate that lets you reposition your entire team. And not only was Starry-eyed Iona the best choice for this, she was one of two choices. She was meta by necessity, really. Now, that being said, she's still a very good unit. She has really good shielding, and it's like shielding for the whole team. And she also passively applies shielding to one unit, the unit that's directly in front of her when you start battle. But using her ultimate is actually kind of annoying because it pseudo stuns your units, and it doesn't work on units that are actively channeling, and it kind of just clumps everybody up together. It can really mess up your positioning. I was never really the biggest fan of Starry-eyed Iona, but we just had to use her. But now that's not really the case. With all that being said, she's still like a decent unit. She's going to be really strong for new players, and you can still find some use out of her passive ability, specifically with someone like Timeless Iona. But for now, B tier. Strong unit, but not a very necessary unit anymore. Selena, D tier. We'll put you right there. Basic attack character that has a very underwhelming ultimate. It's like a line AoE nuke that also stuns, but it's just the numbers aren't there. Selena's just not good enough to be a carry. Not even close, really. So unfortunate. Seraphina, S tier. Probably the best single target carry in the game right now. I'll put her right behind Letitia. I'd say they're about equal in value. Seraphina definitely does a lot more damage though. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about her. She's insane damage, insane single target damage, and provides a nice attack speed buff to 2 characters. Seth, S for Seth. No, probably A tier, low A tier, and she's really only here by necessity, really. She's the only healer for the Windchaser team. Now, you don't always necessarily need a healer where you would use the Windchaser synergy, but when you do, this is a good option. You don't have to bring her. Like, a lot of times I would bring Albrecht instead for the damage bonus. Seth has a cleanse tied to her ultimate, but it's kind of funny because the times when you would want to use a cleanse, the effect is specifically stated to be uncleansable. So, like, why is that a thing? I need to just go on like a little bit of a tangent here. The current clan hunt, one of the stages where it's like the effect is stuns your highest damage dealing character for 20 seconds. This stun is uncleansable. Like, what the hell is that? Why? Who's designing these fights? If it was cleansable, that's like an easy bring Seth, but it's not. Like, anyways, yeah, Seth is pretty good, but we have a lot of effects that are uncleansable that kind of hinder her usefulness. And when she doesn't have that ability going for her, she's really just an above average healer that happens to be in a synergy. Spectral Gilrain, niche. Very niche. I'll put him right in front of regular Agaris. So Spectral Gilrain has the ability to trigger Chronometer, which is nice. You get an extra blood soul at the start of the fight. He also gets a little bit of use in late campaign stages where there's like assassins that will basically just insta kill a unit. But since Gilrain teleports at the start of the fight, they'll try to attack him and just completely miss, and so you negate all that damage, which is really nice. He doesn't really see much use in PvP anymore, mostly because the value of like chronometer stacking in PvP has dropped a lot for several reasons, but I won't get into that. But yeah, for now, Spectral Gilrain is pretty comfortable in the middle of C tier. Cyrene, not a bad character, but she's often a character that you just don't have room for in the teams that you'd want to use her. I'm gonna put her B tier. I wouldn't say she's like any more or less valuable than characters like Van Helsing and Starry-Eyed Iona. But yeah, Cyrene's really just like a buffer for your marksman. And we used to have teams that would stack several marksmans, but now that we have like proper synergy teams that forces you to build certain ways, Cyrene's often just like left out of necessity. You can still use her in some team comps, but she's kind of just like a powercraft character, really. I kind of have a soft spot for Stella. As far as like character design, she's one of my favorites. I'm gonna put her at the bottom of A tier. She's still pretty good in PvP. She has some niche uses in PvE with the fact that her ultimate gets cheaper per enemy killed. So there are some fights where you can just like spam her ultimate, and she also reduces healing and reduces max health and does piercing damage, which is kind of a rare damage type. I actually used her today in a clan hunt and did pretty well with her. But yeah, I would say she teeters on the line of meta and filler unit, but for now, because of my own bias, I put her in the A tier. Timeless Iona. Yeah, okay. As much as I don't want to put her at the top of S tier, it's definitely where she belongs. while I do think power has kind of caught up to her in a lot of aspects of the game, she's still just the best at what she does. She's the best marksman, and she doesn't even need like external healing most of the time. She does great in AoE fights. She does great in single target fights. She reduces the effectiveness of the enemies by reducing their attack speed. She's just a best in class character, and easily the best character for campaign. What do we got here? Transcendent Amy. I'm going to put her right here in this cluster of units. She's an okay tank. She has the ability to kind of group up enemies with her ultimate, which can be useful. And she also has the unique trait of being the only tank of the ancestor faction, so she's gonna be necessary in like later stages of Ancestry Tower. But yeah, I don't really have anything special to say about her. She's okay. She's like the perfect example of a filler unit. Transcendent Hattie. As much as I want to put her in the S tier, I don't think she belongs there, at least not right now. I'll put her right here next to Fanny and Agnes. Again, like the dot team was really, really good before synergies came into play. And while it's still pretty good, it's just not as good as the other team compositions. So I would say like the dot team is currently like the fourth best team you can put together. The other three being like Timeless Iona and a bunch of supports. Dustbound Devotion, and then Windchaser, and then the dot team. I fully see the dot team getting like their own synergy in the future, maybe like right after this one with Joan, Acapella, and Albrecht. It's definitely a team made up of really strong characters, but they're just like not as strong as other options. Theophane. Theophane's getting a buff with the new synergy. But for now, he's a filler unit. He's worse than Friedrich for sure. Just Theophane's so squishy. He works okay in like very low blood power deficits, but anything past like 10%, he's just made of glass and instantly dies. It doesn't matter if he can like taunt a group of enemies and shield himself if he just dies immediately. So yeah, Theophane, bottom end of B tier here. Thibault. She's niche. I don't value her any more or less than Ressa. They kind of just serve the same purpose as like a niche pick. Her ultimate is okay. It doesn't do a lot of damage. It exists purely to buff other characters. And honestly, I wish it was like a crescent moon or new moon or something, but you know, this is just how it is. Transcendent Noah, I'm gonna put him in B tier. He kind of just shares the same problems as the other summoners. And not just other summoners. Any character that's not in a synergy right now, aside from like Timeless Iona. He used to be really, really strong, but he's just been power crept, and I'm sure he'll have his day again as he's added to a new synergy, probably with Geneve. But even with like the introduction of Geneve, his relative power isn't where it needs to be. He has a great ultimate, great abilities. He can do a fair amount of AoE and single target damage. But in the current state of the game, it's just not enough for him to be meta. Triss, kind of unlucky, honestly. She was put in the Windchaser synergy, but she just doesn't synergize, ironically, with that entire team. Her niche is just like stunning enemies, which isn't that strong in this current state of the game. So yeah, unfortunately, I think Triss is just absolute garbage tier. Yggdrasil, I don't have much to say about him. He's like the rest of the tanks. He's just a filler. You pick him when you need a tank. But all three of these tanks, Yggdrasil, Friedrich, and Theophane, they're like not even that great at tanking, surprisingly. Like only Bella and Quinn are great tanks. Aline is only up here as a tank because she does things other than tank that are really good. Silver and Blood kind of has like terribly designed tanks. I seem to have forgotten Darcius in my original take of this tier list, so I'm gonna add her in. I'm gonna put Darcius right next to Agaris here because they kind of fill the same role. They're just like an additional damage unit to use in the dot team. The one thing Darcius has going for her over Agaris is that she's a Crescent Moon ultimate, but unfortunately for her, so is Agnes. And I just find Agnes to be much more useful in the dot team than Darcius. But if you have an extra slot for like more damage, then I would take Darcius over Agaris, especially if you're also bringing Agnes, because Agnes's ult has the physical damage increase, or the so yeah, this is the tier list. I foresee it changing a little bit in a couple of days, but it's been like over a week since I made a video, so I wanted to get something out. So I hope that with this list you have a better idea of what kind of characters you should go for. Remember the like slight disclaimer about Livian and Alexei is that you need them together, otherwise they're just not worth their salt on their own. And now I'm gonna show you like what a good altar would look like for like a new player, and obviously just change it out with characters on this list as you assemble your S tier characters. Your altar, this is pretty much what Church is gonna look like if you're just starting off. You want Van Helsing, Acapella, Fanny, Albrecht, and then they are adding Seraphina and Letitia in a few hours, I think. I don't know. I thought it was going to be on the 23rd, but 100% Seraphina and Letitia are going to be added to the game by the half anniversary patch. So you would want this last slot here to be Seraphina because she's Church, but until then I guess Dibble would work. For Bloodborne, you're gonna want Quinn. You don't necessarily need Bella because you do get her for free from the new player reward track, but 100% Del Carlo. And then the others aren't as important. Again, just like Seraphina, Letitia's gonna be in here by the half anniversary patch. So add Letitia in here, and then I would say Lamia and Stella as your last two. So Quinn, Dalcarlo, Lamia, Stella, Letitia, and the rest of these characters aside from Bella are kind of whatever. I'd say like one copy of Spectral Gilrain is fine because, like I said, he's really niche in like really late stages of the campaign. And then for Kingdom, man, Kingdom really does have the worst assortment of characters here, but Ressa, Starry-Eyed Iona, Geneve, Agnes, and I feel like at this point we're kind of just picking characters for the Kingdom Tower, so you would need Friedrich for that. Yeah, I think this is how I would set up my altar for Kingdom. And with the new Spirit Siphon system, it's probably going to be very beneficial for Ressa to have lots of dupes, so you can leave her on your altar. If we get access to that and it's like not looking like Ressa's going to get much more powerful, I would swap Ressa out for Cessia. But for now, this is what your Kingdom altar should look like. And there you go. That's what I would set my altar up like if I was a new player. And obviously, just as you get all of these characters, just swap them out for the ones that you don't have, except for things that are just like super not worth it. Like if I got one copy of Albrecht, I wouldn't swap it out to try to get a copy of Joan, for instance. Like, ignore the characters that are in the D tier absolute garbage. But yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was insightful, and I hope it was fun. It was definitely fun for me to rank all these characters and just talk about them. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!